Hey yo, what's up everybody, it's JJ. Today we are coming back with a video basically talking about Flux, and of course on Flux itself, the ecosystem, you can do mining and staking. And of course in this video we are gonna basically tell you in depthly how much can you make from staking, how much can you make from mining, how much does it cost to basically operate a miner or a staking node. And of course in this video itself we are basically gonna talk about the pros and cons. So if let's say you are really interested in this content itself, feel free to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and turn on post notification and leave a thumbs up to this video. And of course, some disclaimer first, yes, some of the product that I mentioned itself is using affiliate codes, which is going to help the channel out. And of course, I would say that you do not need to pay extra or anything. Basically, I'm just going to get a commission off if let's say you purchase something off the link or use to sign up or something like that. So I would say over here, I would say that this period itself is the bear market of cryptocurrency, and I would say it is the best time to basically run a staking node operator because everything is dipping. And of course running a staking node operator equals it is cheap, and of course whatever you have yield can basically go up and up. And of course for mining case itself, many people are basically moving away from mining because mining itself, it is energy efficient, and of course I would say, energy consumption is a lot, and of course some can't even cover the electricity depending on where you're located at. So we're going to discuss more into it. So basically we're going to do a recap on the Flux staking / node runner. If let's say you are interested in that video itself, I have made it previously on my channel. I have made basically a full guide on setting up your Flux node and after that generate some passive income. So on the segment itself, there's a lot of topic that I talk about. Basically I teach you the step-by-step guide on how do you set up this node operator. If you want to, you can use the link. It's gonna pop up above, just click on it. So I would say for the node operator itself / the node runner itself, it is somehow easier to set up, and after that I would say you just need to follow the step-by-step guide, which is that just copy pasting codes. And of course I would say the minimum requirement is basically you need a hardware that supports these requirements for the node staking. So we're gonna dive into it itself, but before that we're gonna basically touch the topic how much can you make from staking, how much can you make from mining later on in the segment. So we're gonna go over to the staking part first. So how much can you make? So over here, this is the official site of this Flux itself. This is basically one of my node that is running. So I'm visiting the site over here using my node itself, the Flux OS. And over here, I would say the cumulus itself, the amount that you can earn is basically negative $1.26. Why? Because it is included with the VPS cost of a range around $11. So if let's say you do not use the VPS itself and you try to mine it yourself, you can basically generate up to like $9 US per month. And of course, you need to know that there's a 1K Flux collateral needed, and of course a hardware needed if let's say you're not going to go for the VPS option. So I don't go for the VPS option because I feel that later on in the video I'm going to explain to you. So over here for the Nimbus node itself, you can basically generate like this amount per day. This is just an average, and of course you have to understand that Flux itself, how does the node rewards goes is basically over here. So over here, this is one of my my cumulus node, and after that over here you can see like the range, the days that you get the funds itself is around, starting itself when I did it, it was around 6 to 7 days before I get a reward, or even 5 days, and eventually my node like somehow went haywire and went offline here and there. So over here I have just some tips for you guys later on if let's say you want to set up a node. And over here you can see that this payment itself is roughly around 20 days for you to receive the node's payment itself. So for the payment for this cumulus, the lowest tier node itself you are getting is basically over here 5.625 Flux itself, basically around $2. So over here you can see within a month itself you can make around $9. So the rates you are getting is basically around 15 days or so, or even 14 days or so. You are getting like 2 over Flux, and after that eventually it will accumulate to this over here. So the rewards time itself is around 12 days or something like that. And after that for the Nimbus itself, I can just show you on my page itself. I have a Nimbus node that is running. So over here you can see the frequency is around 3 to 4 days, and after that the reward you are getting is around $4.23, basically 9.375 worth of Flux. And over here if let's say you are gonna look at this table itself, within a month itself you can generate over 50 over Flux token. And after that over here with the VPS cost of basically $25, you are having a net profit of this 46. If let's say you are selling your Flux to basically run the node itself, this is how you're going to look at it. So for this itself, the saturated reward itself, I would say I won't touch on that because this over here is too high tier. And of course, to be honest, on the content that I'm making, I believe that most of you guys, I'm not looking down on you guys or what, is basically this tier itself is too much and too expensive even for me to run. And of course, so I'm not going to cover the part. Basically the cost over here, you can see the rewards definitely is higher because your staking, your collateral is bigger. And over here we're going to talk about the mining rewards itself, how much can you make per day. So over here I have here the mining calculator. If let's say you want to calculate how much can you make from Flux itself, I will head over to what2mine.com, and over here you can just enter your GPUs itself. So I'm just going to put in the 3060 Ti, which is the most efficient card out there, I believe so. People have been debating that 360 Ti itself is much more energy slash hash rate efficient, so the hash rate towards the watt itself is somehow more efficient. And over here you can see just putting one 3060 Ti. If let's say you have it running, good for you. You can basically look at the rewards itself. I'm just gonna put in the Zel hash only, and over here the cost of electricity I'm gonna put it at 0. I mean, I just do it on the average. On average itself, people are paying around 10 cents per kilowatt. Throughout the world, I mean, the average itself is something similar like that. So over here you can see for Flux itself, you are gonna generate around 1.48 Flux, which is the highest reward, and after this the lowest itself. I mean, like, this is the lowest, this is the higher. So this ranges from 1.41 to basically 1.43. So over here you can see for electricity consumption itself, you are paying around, where is it? Yeah, basically over here the profit revenue, you are getting this amount, and after this the amount that you are doing. Basically you are gonna pay like, I think, 40 cents off your electricity or something like that. So your net profit itself is around 20 cents after electricity. So I would say over here some might feel that it is not worth it to run this itself. So another topic later on. So I'm just gonna basically touch on the cost of basically doing this kind of mining. So of course you are not gonna just run one GPU to mine Flux itself. Some people normally do 6 GPUs. So over here you can do the calculate itself. If let's say it's a 3060 Ti, you are basically generating around like 8.6 worth of Flux itself, and after that over here you can see the net revenue is $1.23, which seems very little, and the break even seems impossible. But of course I'm gonna explain to you later on like my thoughts about this mining itself, and of course comparing it to staking. So over here we're gonna basically touch on the topic, how much does it cost to basically run this staking slash mining nodes itself. So the first part itself is basically talking about the staking one, because it's much more easier to explain. So over here is simple. You need to have 1k Flux, 12.5k Flux, and after that 40k Flux, depending on which one you want to go for. And of course the higher you go itself, the hardware that you need is basically required a higher specs itself. So over here I would say this over here is the most popular, and after that I would say it is reasonable in price itself. You can get basically 32 gig of RAM, and after that 500 GB of SSD or NVMe, and after that from there a decent internet speed. And after that I would say this over here, it is easier to run. I mean, like, not easier, but of course the cost itself I already generated down over here. So over here for the Cumulus itself, if let's say you want to get started with staking, this over here is the amount that I've already entered for the Flux cost. Basically you need to buy 1k of this token, and after that you head over to the over here CoinMarketCap, scroll down, basically 1k Flux itself is gonna cost you around 450 US dollar, and after that I already entered it in here, 450. And after that you can see that this over here, to run a Cumulus node you will need to spend at least $900 to basically get it running with the collateral needed. And of course the hardware itself, the hardware for Cumulus itself is over here, this over here, $456. You can get the Cumulus node running with this NUC. Basically it's an Intel NUC, which is, I believe, fully packaged into that. So I already link it down here. You want to use the link over here, you can just head over to the description down below and click on it. It's gonna pop up. Just use whatever you want. And after that over here, if let's say you want to run the Nimbus node itself, we need to have 12.5k to start off with. So over here 12.5k is gonna cost you around $5,600 over dollars. So over here I really put basically the price increased a bit, so I just put it at 5555. So over here it's gonna cost you around $6,000 to almost $7,000 to run one Nimbus node itself. And after that you can see I already put in the reward duration. So over here, my bet, I'm gonna put in like around maybe 12 days. So for Cumulus itself, you are looking at basically every 12 days you are getting a payout. And after that for Nimbus itself, it's 3 to 4 days. So how does the staking reward works itself? Simple. I'm just going to show you my application over here on the Flux node. So over here we can see that this rank itself, you might, if let's say you're already running the node, you might see how long do you wait for your payment. It's basically the rank. So the rank itself is basically every block. So this over here determines that there's around 4,284 blocks left for you to receive your reward. So once you're at the rank of like maybe over here 600 over rank itself, you will see that your reward is coming soon. Of course, pray that your nodes does not goes offline. If let's say your nodes goes offline within 100 confirmation, I would say the 100 blocks itself, if let's say it goes offline, offline within I think 10 or 100 confirmation, your node will basically go offline. And of course, once you're offline, you reconnect it back itself, you are basically at the rank of last one over here. So over here you can see Cumulus, there's around 8,000 over nodes. So how they rank it is basically every node itself will have a countdown. So depending on how long when did you receive your last reward, and after that from there you will be placed to the top of the node itself. So there's 8,000 over nodes, so you have to wait 8,000 over times of the blocks to basically reach to 1, and it is your turn. And for Nimbus itself, it's slightly easier, it's only 2,000 of these nodes running, so I would say expect the rewards to be every 3 to 4 days. So I believe the Flux node itself, per day the block reward is around 420 blocks towards the day itself. So every day you can produce 400 over 20 blocks, and after that this is how you can determine when you receive your payment. And after that over here for Cumulus itself is around 12 to 15 days depending, and after that for Nimbus 3 to 4 days easy. And of course for the cost of operation itself, it is for Nimbus itself, you need to buy the bare bone, and after that from there you need to buy the 32 GB RAM, and of course the 500 gig of NVMe, and after that some coins over here which you can buy at KuCoin. And after that I would say if you want to run the stretchers node over here, the stretchers node itself, you need to basically have 40k of these Flux tokens. So I'm just gonna do a rough estimation. 40k is gonna cost you over 18,000 of this token, and after that over here on top of that your specs. Over here you need to buy a higher Intel core and everything. So for the hardware cost itself, it can easily cost you from basically 1.5k all the way to $3,000 depending on what kind of hardware you want to buy. So over here I can say if let's say you want to run a Cetrus node itself, you will need to have at least have 22k prepared to basically run the node itself. So I would say the rewards wise itself for Cetrus itself is much more higher. So how much higher, to be honest, I do not have the node running, so I can't really determine the reward itself. So over here you can see that for Nimbus itself you're getting 9.37. Nimbus is 9.37. So I believe the Cetrus itself, every time you receive the reward, it is around 22.5, because over here this is 12.5% itself. So what I did is basically 9.375 divided by 12.5, and after that the number is basically 1%, just times by the amount, basically times 30, you are getting like around 22.5 worth of Flux every time it reaches the block. So over here for Cetrus itself, you can wait for around, I would say 2 to 3 days or even 2 to 4 days depending. Over here almost the same as Nimbus, but of course the rewards that you are receiving is much more higher. So over here I would say for the cost of mining right now, we're gonna jump into it. So for mining itself, it is slightly more complicated. You are building a whole PC, a gaming PC. Basically over here you need to have the 3060 GPU, which I already put in, and for the cost of running one GPU node itself, one GPU miner itself is only gonna cost you 1.174 US dollar Sing dollars worth. And after that over here we can see that this over here you are receiving 1.3 to 1.4 worth of Flux every day, and after the reward duration is every day, you will every end of 24 hours worth of mining you can basically cash it out depending on which mining pool you use. And over here let's say you want to run a 6 GPU rig itself, you are getting around 7.6 to 8.8, and of course this over here I have not accounted electricity for it. This is just the pure profit of Flux that you are receiving. So over here we can see that running a Nimbus node itself is as good as running a 6 GPU rig itself, but of course the reward wise itself, you can see that running the GPU itself, you are receiving more Flux at the end of the day. Every day you're generating around 7 to 8 worth of Flux. For Nimbus itself, every 3 days you are receiving like 9.375, and after that from there divided by 3 to 4 days you are receiving as good as basically 2 point something worth of Flux at the end of the day. And after that I would say that basically the comparison here itself, we have not account for the electricity for mining. So for mining itself, electricity is much more a burden. Basically for the Flux Zel core itself, you will, the Zel hash, you will need to basically know that this algorithm is much more energy consumption. So if let's say you set your energy wattage to higher, you will basically get more hash rate. More hash rate equals to more Flux at the end of the day. And after that over here for the staking part itself, it is very quiet to run. And after that over here, we're gonna basically talk about which is better. So over here, if let's say you want to build a GPU itself, you can find all the resources here. And after that, this over here does not include the case, because if let's say you want to save money itself, I would say a case is not really needed. You just need to put a cardboard or maybe a PCV or a roller or what, just put it over for the motherboard, and after that from there for your GPU itself, just hang it somewhere with a rack or something like that. If let's say you're gonna build a 6 GPU rig itself, yes, the cost is accounted for the case of 8, and after that you need to have the PCIe riser and everything. So if let's say you're gonna just go for the normal one, just buy this over here and you can just start your mining itself without any issue. The GPU will just be stick onto the motherboard, but of course I would say use something to support the GPU itself before you let it run like that, because you need to have a support onto the GPU. You know, it will just dangle around and after eventually it will break and spoil. So I would say this over here is optional, but I would recommend if let's say you want to start GPU mining itself, just buy the 8 case, and after that from there just buy the GPU that you want. So for my case, I already enter all the GPU over here, the 3060 Ti's only, and of course if you want to search for other GPUs itself, you can use another link. I'm going to enter it later on. So we're going to dive on the next topic itself, which is better, and of course the pros and cons. So over here for the pros and cons itself, for mining itself, we know that number one, it is energy consumption, which is a lot, and of course you may be looking at your bill for around a plus minus of $200 or even $300, or sometimes even $500, depending on how much GPU, number one, how much GPU you are running, and of course secondly, how much wattage you are basically using for your GPUs for your mining operation itself. So I would say for people who are looking at like super high hash rate itself, definitely just push all the way to the highest for your wattage itself and you can get the ultimate hash rate. But of course I would say for mining itself, we are looking at an efficient mining farm. So what do I mean by efficient? Sometimes your wattage is lower, and after that eventually you can see that the wattage towards the mega hash being produced or the hash rate being produced, you are getting like 0.4 or something like that. So the higher the number at the mega for the wattage towards the hash rate itself, if you see a higher number, that means it is much more efficient. If you see a lower number, that means it is not so efficient. So over here for mining operators, I would say the best thing to do is basically run efficiently, and after that from there you can basically make use of whatever wattage that is there to basically compensate for the hash rate. So I would say efficient is better. And of course for the staking itself, number one, if let's say you want to buy the hardware itself, the hardware is going to cost you easily $500 to around like a few $100s or even $1,000. So over here, if you want to go for the VPS option that they have mentioned over here, if you want to use the VPS, it is going to cost you around $25.11 per month. And after that, if you just do the math itself for a long run itself, this over here is going to cost you $250 per 10 months, and after that over here per year is going to cost you around $750. I mean 200 and around 70 something or even so. So over here I would say this over here is much more monster. You're gonna pay around $50 per month to basically cover the cost. So over here you might be thinking for yourself, should you go for VPS or go for hardware itself? So I will always tell people, if you want to basically own the hardware itself, owning the hardware itself is much more better, because the hardware itself is not only specifically used for flux mining or flux staking or whatsoever. This hardware itself can be used to basically host other blockchain miner itself. You can basically run a Bitcoin node or whatsoever in the future, or even use it as your computer. So if you are using a VPS itself, I would say it is slightly unreasonable. I mean, like not unreasonable, but of course the cost of operation for the VPS itself, you can basically buy a hardware to basically use to mine, host other nodes, and of course use it as a personal computer in the future if let's say you want to, or even resell it with a value. And of course for VPS itself, you're just paying, and after that from there it is just gone. You can't really have the hardware of have a piece of ownership of anything. So I would say VPS itself, you're technically still trusting your funds. I mean, not really your funds, it's just trusting the network to be online. And after that, I would say there's no private keys needed. So I would say VPS itself is the option you can go for as well. And of course, for mining itself is much more technical. And after that, the pros and cons itself for mining, I would say mining itself is energy efficient. It's going to cost you a lot of energy, a lot of noise, and after that, it's very heaty. I mean, like it's very the machine itself produces a lot of heats, and after that, from there, you need to do a cooling system to basically cool it off. And after that, I would say the complication of setup is much more medium. If let's say you do not know how to set up a computer or build a computer itself, I would say GPU mining itself might be a bit challenging for you. But if let's say you are using the Cumulus running the VPS itself, the VPS is slightly more easier to run, and of course the startup cost itself is as good as buying a GPU. And of course, second thing, the pros about GPU itself, you can basically resell the GPUs to basically like the gamers, or let's say other people who wants the GPU itself. I mean, the market is there, the GPU has a market over there. And of course for this Cumulus itself, for the staking itself, the hardware of selling it to basically have a resale value, yes, there's definitely a resale value. But of course, the depreciation for this resale value is very fast and high, because every time there's a new technology coming out, and after that, eventually your nodes, this hardware itself will become less and less in value. And of course, it's technically the same for GPU, but of course, the GPU itself somewhat still retain its value. for maybe 10 months down the road or even 12 months down the road, people are still willing to buy like 3060 Ti's, even though the 40 series is out or whatever, people are still willing to pay for the 3060 Ti's. And of course, if let's say you're using the 1660 Super or 1660 Ti, you also can try to resell it, but of course the value is much more lower, to be honest. And after that, I would say that which one should you go for? So over here, I would say, if let's say number one, if let's say you want to go for either staking or mining itself. So for staking itself is anybody, I would say anybody, literally anybody can just get started with staking itself, because the cost of operating this device itself is it is not consuming a lot of electricity, maybe at most $1 per day or something like that, or even lesser than that, because it's just a computer that's running without a graphic card. It's just a small tiny computer, which is much more, I would say, energy efficient. And after that, from there, to operate this itself, you will not really see a spike in your electricity bill, or basically the heat itself is not going to heat up the whole room or whatsoever, because the device itself is, I would say, a palm size for the NUC Intel. If you know about this kind of mini computers, it is very small, and after that, easy to store around. And after that, I would say, to basically run the node itself, you will need to know that, yeah, you need to check from time to time if your node is online or offline using the Zelcore wallet. And after that, yeah, basically to check it is online or offline. So this over here is very important. Sometimes it will just go offline, and so I would say recommend you to basically enable the watchdog, and of course install the auto update. And after that, secondly, I would say for those who are, for the cost, if let's say your electricity cost is less than 10 cents, if let's say you are paying less than 10 cents per kilowatt in the US dollar itself, feel free to basically explore into the mining field itself, because over here you have to understand, if let's say you build a mining rig itself, it is not only mineable on Flux. You can mine like Ethereum. If let's say the Ethereum transit from proof of work towards the proof of stake itself, you still can mine other coins like Ethereum like Ethereum Classic, and after that Flux, and after that other coins. There's a lot of coins that you can mine using the GPU itself, but of course we have to understand that you have to take note over here, most of the hash rate right now is in the Ethereum ecosystem. So once Ethereum transit from proof of work towards the proof of stake itself, we will see that mining Flux itself, the reward might basically get reduced, because most of the miner will be basically, all the hash rate over there will be diluted towards the other mining algorithm, and eventually you will see maybe 20% or even 30% cut of your mining rewards, because more hash rate in equals it's harder to mine, and of course you need to own majority of the hash rate to basically make a decent amount. So basically this is how the difficulty works on mining itself. So I would say if you want to go for the mining itself, you are looking at around 2 to even 3 years to break even. If let's say at the current price itself, it is taking forever. So over here for mining itself, for miners, it's the same concept. You are just generating the coins, and after that paying off the electricity bill, doing a dollar cost averaging into the ecosystem, and eventually if let's say the price eventually went back to $1.20 or even $2 for Flux itself, you can look at selling your coins, and after that from there flipping back your initial cost of the mining operation, and of course electricity that you have paid. So I would say if let's say your electricity is damn cheap, and after that from there quite reasonable to run a miner, I would say go ahead, go for it. And of course, no financial advice, do your own due diligence before you jump into it. So you can see for Flux itself, the highest is $3. So if let's say whatever you're holding right now, I mean like generated through mining or something like that, you are basically holding on to $3, and yeah, the price rise, and after that from there all your capital gains as well. So I'll say I've come to the end of the video. If you like the video, kindly leave a thumbs up to the channel, and of course subscribe to my channel, and of course I would say turn on the post notification, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Before that, if let's say you have any questions or whatsoever, feel free to comment it down below. And if let's say your comments get deleted or what, I did not delete it because it is the YouTube algorithm. So I would say feel free to join my Discord or Telegram channel, and after that from there I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. And of course I'm gonna see you on the next one. Bye bye, peace.